Hey, what's going on, everybody? Just getting off work, doing episode 2 of the Water Podcast. I am Scott. I don't really have a functional style on what I'm going to go for, like lengthwise or what the episode will be about. I think the beginning few will just be about me and my story, because that's about how I want to run the podcast I'm trying to do. Later on, when I get a studio set up, we will do like certain episodes. There's a bunch of styles out there, and really love the way they do it. They just handle one topic at a time, and the more comfortable I get with talking and get a setup going, when I get comfortable, like I would like to do that. Right now, the beginning, I want to bring people on, including myself, and just discuss how we got to where we are, our life story, because I think it's important everyone to tell their life story. So yeah, that's what this will be. The first one was just the intro, and I rambled on for 30 minutes, and now episode 2, let's discuss, I guess, how I became red-pilled would be the way to say it. So, let's see. I would say I started off divorced when I was 4 years old. I chose to move with my mom, so she wasn't alone. When I was 10, I moved back with my dad. When I was 17, 17 was a crazy year. It's 2001. In July, my father died in a car accident, so I had to grow up pretty quick. And a few months later, that's when 9/11 happened, and on 9/11, I was just a stoner, goth kid, didn't really care about anything, and, life didn't really affect me. I just had to get a job and take care of myself. So 9/11, it's a day I remember, just like most people, but the weird thing for me is they brought in a TV set to every classroom just in time for us to all watch the second tower fall, and I was uncomfortable with it. Like, I just didn't understand why they would do that. Like, you could just broadcast it on the intercom system, just let everyone know that there was a national tragedy. You didn't have to make everyone view it. Maybe that wasn't evil intentions or nefarious intentions, but that's how it came off to me. I didn't see the reasoning for that. So that kind of started me down a path, and then in the next few years, I didn't even know anything about 9/11 Truth or 9/11 for grown-ups, because the kook movement making like theories of mini nukes and silly stuff that doesn't make any sense with zero evidence. And planes, no planes. I do have to say, I watched some of the videos of the no planes stuff, but the more you look into it, it just doesn't make sense. I could see how someone can create a 9/11 video of the second tower getting hit, and they just kind of edit out the second plane, or the plane hitting the second tower. And they even do it in some of the little videos I watch where they show you putting it back in place, so very easy to take it out. So yeah, just if you're just getting into being red-pilled or awakening, just be careful, because there are a lot of grifters out there that are just trying to get clicks. There's a reason they call it clickbait, that the mainstream media does for a reason, but alternative media also does that. And a lot of, there's government projects for 9/11 operations, that sent their crews out into the 9/11 truth world, and literally were there to plant this information to confuse everybody. And for the most part, a lot of it worked. And you get Ryan Dawson, he's out there trying to give 9/11 truth for grown-ups, and most people can't handle it because they've seen videos, and that's about it. or couldn't find death records for some people that were supposed to be dead there, or crazy stuff like that. And then Dawson, no one likes to talk about him because he shows with I think the 18 pages he got FOIA'd. So it's interesting stuff, but just be careful. So all that didn't sit well with me. And then internet got more popular over the next few years. And I started looking into just ridiculous conspiracies. When YouTube, you could search for whatever you want, and the algorithm actually worked on getting you some good, useful information, like learning about what the Federal Reserve is and how they print money out of thin air. And it seems like everyone's starting to say the same stuff, but that's only because the truth is more accessible, and we're able to get the truth by just reading their documents, reading their books, trying to create videos to share the truth. The main reason why I wanted to start a podcast was, so I guess you would call it, we're tech alt media, but since Trump got in, it kind of screwed it all up, and now it's, if you're speaking the truth, you become alt-right or stuff like that. If you're anti-war, you're on the right. It doesn't make sense when, the anti-war used to be the left or libertarian, but now you're all far right, which doesn't make sense. But there's so many accusations, people calling each other grifters. Like, take Owen Benjamin, for example. He used to be with Steven Crowder. He used to write for him and didn't like that Steven Crowder would put his Johnson on people and play around, very, very gay-like, and didn't appreciate it. I like Owen Benjamin because he's, like, masculine, and then, having to work with a guy that likes to put dresses on. And sure, I've watched Steven Crowder, some of the stuff he does. I mean, he gives references, so that's good. But yeah, the dressing up as a girl and stories of how he is at the office, I don't watch him that much. But there's so many accusations of, like, say, a lot of people call Alex Jones, controlled op, or David Icke controlled op. But they give truth, so you gotta shuffle through. Like Jones, he won't attack the Zionist states. There's Zionist state and Zionist faction of our government or the Israeli government. And so there's accusations being thrown around everywhere. I think, so I wanted to create this because this way I know my research and what I know from reading these texts, these documents, these books, watching documentaries, like everything that's verifiable. I know that I'm a real person that can try to speak truth to power, and I know I'm real. It's hard to tell these days because everyone throws accusations at everybody. Hotep Jesus throws accusations at Candace Owens, calling her the greatest grifter of all time, stuff like that. Candace Owens does great stuff on vaccines. You look at RFK Jr., he's very anti-vax, but then at the other side of his mouth, he's saying all his kids are vaccinated and that he wants all kids in America vaccinated. And he had a mandatory vaccine party. I mean, it's just weird stuff. I don't appreciate if either being lied to, or you say you're going to do one thing and you don't follow through, or you do the complete opposite. Just like during lockdowns, like all the governors that were telling you mask up and mandating masks, but then they go and don't wear masks. I never put a mask on. I bought one just in case I had to go in some dumb store. But I never did. The two places that said I had to, and they wouldn't let me in without it, I just left. You're not getting my money. It's as simple as that. Don't support people that hate you. And I try to rarely buy it from Amazon. I try to rarely go to Walmart. I go to a local grocery store instead. I try to get everything at a local store. That's the way we got to win this fight. You can see how the boycotts are working, but like Target lost 10 billion, Bud Light, last time I heard, lost 9 billion. That's good. That's great. But then you look at Ford and North Face, and they're doing the same thing. These companies don't care about money because they are government subsidized. So we can boycott them, yeah. And it'll hurt some of the people there. Like the Bud Light vendors, they're the ones getting hurt mostly because they can't sell product and they get paid off of selling that product. It's not their fault. It's these companies' fault. So your dollar is the best way to boycott. But, you know, just like the bank bailouts, we could boycott them, but then the government would just bail them out. So, you know, maybe Bud Light's a little different, but, and get off of, like, using credit cards. Catherine Austin Fitz, she does, what is it, Black Market Friday, or Black Friday, every Friday and Saturday, I think. You just use cash only, and that's a good way to, like, boycott the credit card companies, or, you know, all their card fees. So there's ways around, there's solutions, and eventually that's what I want to get into, just like James Corbett does, Solutions Watch. And I love, you know, he was doing Propaganda Watch and noticed he's only giving the bad stuff, or, you know, the bad news. So why not make a Solutions Watch? And I love Solutions Watch. That's where I heard, you know, Catherine Austin Fitz, how the Black Friday thing, Cash Fridays. So, anyway, back to, this is probably going to be all over the place for my first 10 episodes. Who knows? I do have a lot to talk about. I got a lot of information in my head, and I do want to share it. And so if it's scattered, bear with me if anyone's ever watching this. So this is mostly just to get all these thoughts out of my head and onto video, and, you know, hopefully someone will find it useful someday. So yeah, that's video, or internet started coming out on the internet, and the internet started getting more available. So I started looking into it, and I remember, you know, pre-2010, like, there were crazy videos on YouTube, you know, reptilian newscasters and all that. And then it just sounded dumb. The crazier the stuff I watched, I just stopped watching for a while. And I wouldn't say I got out of conspiracy talk. I definitely didn't watch the news, because even the weather people lie. And if you can't trust the weathermen on TV and the news, you can't trust nothing they do. So I got out of it for a long time. And then I would say 2018, even during Trump, I didn't care. Politics had nothing to do with me. And I had nothing to do with politics. I didn't care about it. And then I would say 2018, I started, 2017, 2018, I was big into comedy. Funny enough, I didn't know who Owen Benjamin was back then. But so I started, that's all I did. You know, it used to just be music. And then I got into comedy. So I was listening to a lot of comedians, and I listened to Joe Rogan's special, a few of them or whatever, and found out he had a podcast, and I was like, hey, I'll check that out. The first Joe Rogan podcast I watched was the Alex Jones one. One of them was 9/11. I forget the other one. Excuse me. But and that kind of got me back into the conspiracy world. Let's go back a little. So when I got out of the conspiracy talk, like I said, I was expanding my mind, you would say, and so I always talked about crazy stuff, and I was working on building it's going to sound crazy, but my telekinesis, and I kind of stopped as soon as I did a little. As crazy as that sounds, whatever. I've got it to work. The power of the mind is there. And I wasn't Christian back then. I believed in a creator, but I wouldn't call him God. And that's just stubbornness, I guess. So yeah, I got listening to Joe Rogan. I got into some of the political, and it started with Alex Jones. I do remember watching a few of his things like on YouTube a long time ago, but I never got into it. And most conspiracies I knew about were not from Alex Jones or David Icke. And most people do hear Alex Jones first, which is a strange thing. Just it seems strange to me, at least. And so yeah, I got back into the conspiracy world 2017, 2018, 2019. More and more, less and less comedy, which probably isn't good for your mental. And I just couldn't put it down. And that led to, I listened to everybody. Hotep Jesus, James Corbett, Media Monarchy, Richard Grove, one of my favorites. Whitney Webb, T-Lav, Last American Vagabond, that's great stuff. Less and less Alex Jones, just because of how hyperbolic he is, and nothing against the guy, but he doesn't attack the Zionists, and I heard he's a shill, but he puts out some truth. David Icke, he puts out the same, I would say. Like, I forget the term right now, but they put out like 90% truth, but that 10% of misinformation is enough to make you sound crazy. So you got to be careful. You don't just repeat back what people say. Verify. Trust but verify. So, and Owen Benjamin says, I forget what he says. I'm not lying. That's basically what it is. I might not be telling the truth, but I'm not lying, or I might be I forget how it goes. My apologies. So I got back into it, and then I found Ryan Dawson. I found a bunch of the 9/11 Truth for Adults. He calls them all, Jonestown or kookified stuff, and makes sense. So I started getting more and more into it. And then I started doing protests, so 2019, I was listening to Jones a lot, and I was, spreading out on who I was watching and paying attention to. Still never trusted Fox or any mainstream, just because it's so obvious they have a bias. I guess Tucker got good in past couple years. That's when they axed him, but he still wouldn't talk about a lot of stuff. It's good he has regret being all for the Iraq war. So anyway, I know I'm saying a lot. Sorry, I'm just trying to collect my thoughts and spit out as much as I can. So I start 2019 happened, and I saw COVID coming because of Alex Jones, and so I was prepared and listening to all the doctors that came on in the very beginning. Francis Boyle, amazing guy. He's the one that wrote the 80s biological weapons treaty, or 90s, I forget. So I knew what COVID was, and then listening to all the doctors like Dr. Shiva and Bhattacharya. I'm trying to think of other ones, but anyway, so I was I would say ahead of the game, and everyone likes to say I said it first, but it's ridiculous. But I am glad I found Alex Jones and started listening to him during 2019, 2020, because I remember the first month, maybe 6 weeks, we bought gloves and masks just in case it was going to be crazy, because we saw what was happening in China, and we're like, if that ever hits here, my wife and I, we were trying to get prepared, and then I forget who it was, but they were like, no, just take vitamin D, hydroxychloroquine. You can drink a club soda that gives you I forget what that is. But you can drink like a club soda, and it gives you starts with a Q. Sorry, just trying not to get an accident. So we stocked up, got prepared. I felt like I was prepared good enough, and my wife's fears, I feel like, calmed those down pretty soon. And then, of course, the vaccine, we would never have done that. We were very anti-vax. The one study, I think it was done just in 2021, where they compared unvaccinated kids to vaccinated kids, and the vaccinated children, their whole body's inflamed. They have all sorts of stuff, all sorts of things wrong with them. Asthma and allergies multiple times more often in vaccinated children. And man, I used to get tetanus shots from cutting myself working, and I would once a year, and once every 2 years, I would get a tetanus shot. Now that I know what's in tetanus shots, I'm like, why? And they don't cut the size down for babies. They give babies more than what they give adults. How does that make sense? The studies of vaccines, it's just mind-boggling that they don't really test for safety. You look at the COVID vaccine, there's a Forbes magazine in mid-2020 that says the trials, Pfizer's trials for the COVID vaccine, not to mention it's mRNA, something we've never tried, and the times we did, it killed all the cats and ferrets, that they weren't even testing to see if it would stop transmission or infection. The purpose of it was to lessen the symptoms. Like, what's the point of even getting the vaccine if you can't tell you have the sickness? It's just ridiculous. And then you say that, and you're called a conspiracy theorist just for saying, repeating a Forbes article that went through the actual science back then, and no one else can read it. So yeah, definitely I would have never got a COVID vaccine, even if my job tried to force me to get it or quit. I would have quit. I would have figured it out. I've God on my side now. And I say now because when I met my wife, it's just one thing after another. He literally would answer prayers within hours. One day I was questioning God, I guess, and then a preacher came in, and him and I had an amazing conversation, and I was asking God to talk to me, and in that moment that the preacher was talking to me, I realized people are always asking for God to talk to them, and maybe they don't even realize it, but God is talking to them through people. That's how he's going to do it. He wouldn't appear out of nowhere or send an angel down to talk to you. No, he's going to send somebody to talk to you and answer your prayer and speak to you. You just got to have your eyes open enough and realize God can use any one of us to talk to each other or talk to you if you're asking for it. So that happened to me. And it was just answer prayer after answer prayer, bringing me closer. So I have God on my side now, and my job did offer to pay me $250 to get this shot, and I laughed. Literally, I laughed at them. And they, my boss, he got it, and then a month later, he went into a diabetic shock, fell down, and now he has extreme diabetes when before he didn't really have a diabetes problem. So, I've seen some of the repercussions of what the vaccine did, and it's sad. And now, last time I checked, the VAERS data showed 40,000 deaths plus, and that's just possibly 1% due to a Harvard study that showed in the VAERS system only 1%, 1 to 10% is all that's recorded in it. So That's my. So here we are now, and there's been so much going on that it's crazy. We live in a crazy world, but I just want everyone to know that there's hope, and hopefully this podcast can do some good in the world. And I'm going to be rambling on like this, so get used to it if you are going to be a watcher. And I'll try to share some information that I come across. The more I do this, the more comfortable I get with this. So it'll be a slow process, but we'll get there. Alright, I think I'll call it there because I got scatterbrained and I gotta get out. So, God bless everybody, and I'll talk to you soon.